Hey, welcome back to Bros Who Know Stuff, and today we're going to be putting that scope over there is a Strike Eagle. It's a Vortex Strike Eagle 1x8 by 24 rifle scope. We're going to be putting it on a Marlin 336C, which is C stands for carbine. It's a 30-30. One of the first things you want to do before you put your rifle scope on your rifle is that you want to adjust your, what they call the ocular focus. So this is the ring right here on a 1x and up to like a 1x6 or 1x8. You want to put your magnification on the lowest. So here, as you can see, I have it on a 1 right there that I'm pointing to. And on a rifle scope, what that does is on a 1x, not a high power, but a 1x, it does adjust your image a little bit, but it also mainly will adjust the focus of your eye to the reticle. So do that first before you do anything. So I have here a Torx screwdriver. I've got a T15 Torx bit on the end, and this again is, I would say, an essential piece of equipment to have when you're working on a rifle, especially when you're doing your scope rings. So this is the first info, Torx screwdriver, and I just picked this up online. So you put your bit in, and then after you put your bit in, then you have your increments right here. Okay, and so you just take your handle, you take and you pull down on this piece right here, and then you rotate this until the number down here, which is the 0, lines up with this 20 mark right in the center right there. So I'm going to do that right now. So what I do is I find the 20, and then actually I'm a little over right now, so I'm right there right now. So I've got that at 20 inch pounds, and this is an inch pound screwdriver, Torx screwdriver. And this one specifically is a 10 pound to 50 pound inch per pound Torx screwdriver. So I highly suggest getting one of these guys. This is a cutaway view of the vertical split Talley ring on my Picatinny rail. Just to help explain, there's a single panhead screw that's going to be screwing into a thread hole on the other side. And so that's all that locks these in. I took off the other side of the vertical split ring just to give you an idea of how this clamps down to a Picatinny rail. So this bolt is going to be moved around. And again, this is part of the base of your scope ring right here. You move your scope rings by placing the bolt in the base of the mount in these areas right here. So you can move your rings up and down. Be sure when you're working with scope rings, whether no matter what rings you have, always keep the set of rings together. Don't mismatch. Like take this and, put this one over here. The manufacturers basically, when they build these to spec, and so these basically are twinned up. So always keep these together. So the one thing I'm going to do here with the scope is I'm going to put the vertical split rings on the scope first. So what I do is I just put the rings on the scope there, and all I do is just hold it tight with fingers, and it doesn't matter what position you have the vertical rings. You can put them in any position you want, and I start out using just a supplied Torx wrench that they send you, and what I do is I just put one of the bottom screws in, and I just finger tight, not too much, just get it going, just to hold it, and then I just flip it over, and then I go to the top. So on the top, I just take one of the ring screws, and I pop that in there just to get it going, finger spin it in, and it's easier to use the long portion of your wrench as opposed to the short, of course. So with the vertical split ring, all I do is I take the long portion of the Torx wrench here that they send you, and then I put the ring on, and then I put one of the bottom screws on one down here, and then I put a top one on the opposite side up here, and then I just finger snug these two guys in just to get the ring on. So what you see down here is called the locking plate. These two guys, this piece of metal with this little groove in it, and that goes on the bottom of the rings. These are 1032 screws. And doing my research, I actually took calipers and measured the major diameter and also the threads per inch on these screws here on the bottom and the top. And the literature online says in 2017, the literature says that these are 6x48. My calculations make these 8x40. So the call out is 8, and then the threads per inch are 40. And then this is a smaller size and this is a longer size. Just to let you know, do your own research, and if you come up with something different, please leave it down in the comments for me. Thank you. So sliding these vertical rings is not difficult at all when you leave off the plate, the clamping plate. So that's a good distance right there. And then what I'll do is I will move this one to here, because one thing, let me show you here. I'm going to take off this sunshade. Let's eliminate this. So there's the true scope right there. So just kind of eyeball, you know, I've got a good distance here. This is a little bit in, so to balance it out, to make it proportional, I'm going to move this ring back all the way back to the first slot on the Picatinny rail. So then I'm going to move it forward, and I'm kind of liking it back all the way. So when you move, just pick up your scope a little bit, pick it up, and this ring right here will slide very easily up and down or forward and aft. I am going to take the clamping plate. Again, that's this little plate right here for the Talley vertical split rings. And that screw just goes right in there. And then you can just take a wrench, which is, you're going to need a T25. One thing I highly recommend when it comes to working on your mounting of your scope is to get yourself a good torque wrench. And I'm using this. This is a First Info H5187. I just picked it up. If you ever strip out one of these screws, you are definitely not going to be happy. So here you have the locking plate. I have just finger tight. Okay, I haven't torqued these down at all. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here again. As a reminder, I already did the dioptic adjustment on this 1x8 power, and I'm in a nice comfortable position right here. Sorry for hitting the camera there, but look away, put the cheek down again. That's pretty good. I like that. You can always come back and make adjustments. So the next thing we want to do is we want to check for eye relief. So eye relief is going to be your distance from the back of your scope here, in just very simple terms, to where when you're in a good position and your most common natural position with a good cheek weld. So when you're doing your eye relief, this is kind of what you're going to be looking at. I'm holding my camera up. It's about 4, 5, maybe 5 inches away. So you see that black circle around the area that we're looking at? You want to try to get rid of most of that as possible. And when you do, that is going to be the point where you're going to have a good eye relief. This is the bubble level at the front of the rifle. Here is the bubble level on the elevation turret on the turret body. Alright, don't laugh, but this is my jerry rig to set up a flashlight that's shining through the front of my scope that is going to give me a reticle silhouette up on the wall. And if I move straight over here, and then let's zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to come back out just a little bit more. Okay, right there. I would say that that is right on. And as you can see right here, all I have is just, I took a tripod and then I took a neck knife and I hung my neck knife as a plumb. And then that is giving me a picture up there on the wall that I can align the reticle to. I've already finger tightened both of these top screws. I've snugged them up pretty firm. So now I'm going to take the Torx screwdriver and I'm going to hold the rifle steady, and I'm going to be quiet, but I'm going to turn the Torx screwdriver, and maybe you'll hear the click that happens. So I'm going to do a little on there, and as you can see, this is this top gap. You'll see that gap closing. Okay, that's what happens when you get to 20 inch-pounds. Now I'm going to do 20 inch-pounds on this. All right, so these are 20 inch-pounds. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to the front scope. Again, these are already finger tight, snug, and I'm just finishing up the torque here. And I'm going to go full 20 inch-pounds again. Okay. Now, if I had a filler gauge, which I'm going to go get, I'm going to get a filler gauge and show you. So this is a gap here, and here is the other gap. So just to test those out, I'm going to go grab my filler gauge. I'll be back and we'll see if there's any difference in the two. So again, per Talley, the Talley manufacturer says that you want to do your top screws first, and then you want to go down and do your bottom screws second. Now those bottom screws that I just pointed out, they are snug, but they're not too tight. So I got a filler gauge. This is the 0.48 millimeter size. And if I go up here and I try to pop it in that guy, it just about gets in there. And then over here, I try to put it in there and it's really, I've got to force it in there just a little bit to get it into the gap. But I would say, yeah, that's pretty close. And if I give you a aerial perspective looking from above, so this is the front ring by the eyepiece, and that is by the barrel. So I would say that looks pretty good. So I torqued these down to 22 inch-pounds, although Talley says torque them to 20 inch-pounds. I read this article online at Marlin owners, and this guy basically has been putting scopes on for decades, and he basically ran with 22 all the time up here. So I'm going to put 22 inch-pounds on these guys up here, and then 30 inch-pounds on the screws down below. Those are all secure down here. And then I'm going to secure the base screw on the other side here in a second.